Saquon Barkley appears to be a pending free agent, and I'd like to have a little chat, if you will, about where he should go. The reason I'd like to have a little chat about this is because the more I think about teams that should go after Saquon, the more complicated it gets. My very first thought on Saquon Barkley is that no team should give him a massive deal. And I have a suspicion that Saquon will not have the market that some people suspect that he will. First off, we have seen way too many cautionary tales about giving a running back a second contract, especially injury-prone ones. And as great as Saquon was last season, he is great. He has only played 16 games in a season twice, and he's missed significant time 2 of the last 3 years. So if your team is a rebuilding team and you think, hey, you know what, my team should go out and get Saquon Barkley, you should want him because he's a great running back and he's one of the best running backs in the NFL. But most of the teams that you would think of as rebuilding teams already have running backs. Teams like Houston with Dameon Pierce, Chicago with David Montgomery, and he's not the level of player that Saquon is, but he's also much less expensive. The Colts have Jonathan Taylor. The Panthers, they're rebuilding, but they just moved off of a major running back in Christian McCaffrey, and the Washington Commanders could potentially be interested in Saquon, but Brian Robinson showed flashes this season. So you wouldn't think any of those teams would be interested in Saquon. But there are 2 rebuilding teams that I think should take a look at Saquon Barkley. Number 1 is the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals have about 13 to 14 million in cap space going into this offseason. So they have a little bit of room to play with, and they're likely going to get even more cap space after they trade DeAndre Hopkins. So here's why this makes sense. Is Kyler Murray is a small and injury-prone player himself. So it makes sense for the Cardinals to go out and get a premier running back to take some of that pressure off of Kyler Murray. The less Kyler Murray has to throw the ball, the less he is in danger of getting himself injured again. However, the benefit for the Cardinals is that they know that they have a great quarterback when they need him. So the Cardinals would give up bring DeAndre Hopkins. They would bring in Saquon and change the complexion of the offense and try to take some of that pressure off of Kyler Murray in an effort to protect him a bit. It makes sense in theory. The other rebuilding team that should be interested in Saquon Barkley, another team, is the Rams. The Rams should try to go out and get Saquon Barkley. This is very likely not going to happen as the Rams are not doing well with cap space right now. But the Sean McVay Rams offense was arguably at its best when they had a star running back when Todd Gurley was there. It would also seem as though McVay isn't a big fan of the guy he has in-house at the moment, the way he benched and unbenched Cam Akers. And it just feels like a good fit. Like if you say it out loud, Saquon Barkley, Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp. It just feels like it's a good fit. It just makes sense. When you say it out loud, it just makes sense. However, the Rams have major cap issues, so I cannot imagine them spending 12-ish million a year on Saquon. They'll likely target someone in the draft and try and get someone cheaper. So those are the rebuilding teams that should be interested in Saquon Barkley, which if you are a rebuilding team, I don't feel like it's a good idea to go up there Saquon just because it doesn't make sense to, try to ask an injury-prone running back to lead your team. Now, the teams I feel like should go after Saquon are teams that feel like they are a step or two away from a Super Bowl, or they're a type of team that feel like they're in a championship window, they're in the playoff window, they need to add pieces to kind of take that next step. However, the issue that comes with that thought is that most of the teams who are in that kind of playoff championship window, playoff window, don't really have the money to sign Saquon. But that said, there are 2 main teams that feel like a good fit for Saquon that are in that championship window. The number 1 team that needs to be interested in Saquon Barkley is the Buffalo Bills. The Bills desperately need to get something out of their running game outside of Josh Allen. Last season, Devin Singletary was the Buffalo Bills' leading rusher with 819 yards. Josh Allen was second with 762. That's only 60 less yards. The Buffalo Bills need a legitimate running game, and we obviously know what a healthy Saquon Barkley brings to the table. The idea of bringing in Saquon to the Buffalo Bills also lends itself to the idea that it may help with Josh Allen's turnover issues. If Josh Allen isn't having to be Superman every single game and doesn't feel like he has to make the play every single game and he's the Buffalo Bills' sole offensive producer, by bringing in Saquon Barkley, they can lean on the running game a little bit, lean on play action, and then take some of that pressure off of Josh Allen because they have Saquon and they have something outside of their passing game and outside of just Josh Allen. So one would think that bringing in Saquon could help reduce those turnovers. However, the Bills have the 6th worst cap situation in the NFL. So I just can't imagine Saquon going there. I can't imagine the Bills being able to pay for him. Another Saquon Barkley candidate, another team that should be interested in Saquon Barkley, is the Miami Dolphins. They have 4 running backs that are pending free agents. So they have a need at running back just by virtue of everyone potentially leaving. But the Dolphins are a bit of an enigma with their running game. The Miami Dolphins were 25th in total rushing yards last season. So I expected to be able to come on this show and talk about how they need someone who's a real difference maker. But then I dug a little bit deeper, and the Dolphins had the 2nd fewest rushing attempts in the NFL last season, and they had 2 players in Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson averaging almost 5 yards a carry. So from an outsider's perspective, it looks like they just needed to run the ball more. But think about it this way. If Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson can average close to 5 yards a carry, it would be very interesting to see what Saquon could do on this Miami Dolphins team. So it's a little strange, and that's not necessarily what I expected to say when I kind of thought this Miami thing up. But that all being said, once again, this kind of has an Arizona effect. It makes sense for the Miami Dolphins to bring in a superstar running back like Saquon Barkley to their team to try and protect their injury-prone quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. It's well documented, not going to talk about it, but having someone in your offense where Tua can just hand the ball off versus having to throw the ball over and over and over and over again seems like a great way to limit the hits Tua takes and help limit the injuries he may sustain.